When the Sutro Baths finally opened in 1896, visitors stepping inside felt as if they had wandered into a fantasy built for ordinary people. Sunlight poured through the massive glass roof, scattering bright reflections across 7 shimmering pools that stretched toward the ocean like a liquid staircase. Families gasped, children ran ahead in awe, and even seasoned travelers admitted they had never seen anything so enormous, so inviting, and so alive. The pools varied in temperature, so swimmers could choose icy salt water, warm comfort, or something in between. Diving boards arched over the deeper basins, trapezes dangled high above the water for the brave, and slides curved into churning blue below. But the baths were more than recreation. They were a miniature world of discovery. Wrapped around the pools was a broad promenade where visitors strolled, socialized, and watched the spectacle below. Above them, galleries held pieces from Adolf Sutro's personal museum, artifacts he had collected during his travels. Egyptian mummies, exotic plants, stuffed animals, scientific specimens, and curiosities from every corner of the world filled the exhibition halls. Families could swim, explore ancient history, wander through displays, then descend to the restaurants for warm meals without ever leaving the building. The complex included 500 private dressing rooms, a 2,700-seat amphitheater for events and competitions, and club rooms that hosted community gatherings. And unlike the exclusive resorts of the era, Sutro insisted on keeping prices low. A streetcar ride cost 5 cents and a full day of swimming cost 25, making the palace accessible to factory workers, dock laborers, and children who otherwise might never experience anything so grand. On opening day, thousands poured through the doors, filling the building with cheers, laughter, and the sound of splashing water bouncing off the iron beams. Newspapers described the baths as dazzling, a triumph of engineering and imagination, a place where even the poorest citizens could feel the thrill of luxury. For the next several years, the Sutro Baths stood not just as a public attraction, but as a symbol of possibility, proof that wonder could be shared, that beauty could belong to everyone, and that a dreamer with enough vision could reshape an entire coastline into a place where joy overflowed as abundantly as the ocean itself. Asterisk. The wonder of the Sutro Baths did not dim instantly. But the moment Adolf Sutro died in 1898, the building he poured his fortune and imagination into began facing challenges no one else was prepared to solve. The baths were enormous, beautiful, and mesmerizing, but they were also fragile, expensive, and endlessly demanding. Salt water corroded metal beams, storms shattered glass panes, heaters groaned under the weight of keeping multiple pools warm, and the pounding Pacific tested every bolt, pipe, and foundation stone. Without Sutro's genius and relentless upkeep, the structure required far more money and expertise than his heirs could provide. They tried to keep the place alive by hosting swimming competitions, beauty shows, and circus-style performances, but attendance rose and fell unpredictably. Then the nation changed. World War I tightened money and attention. The Great Depression devastated families who could no longer spare even a few cents for leisure. Recreational tastes shifted as movie theaters, dance halls, and new forms of entertainment emerged across the city. Slowly, the great glass palace that once welcomed thousands began echoing with empty spaces. Sutro's descendants renovated desperately, removing some pools and adding basketball courts, dance floors, even an indoor beach filled with sand brought in from the coastline. For a brief moment, it worked, drawing curious crowds who wanted something fresh and unusual. But the building's underlying problem never changed. It was simply too large, too costly, and too vulnerable. Every year demanded expensive repairs that profits could not cover. By the early 1950s, the baths were worn, weathered, and in constant need of maintenance. When entertainment mogul George Whitney bought the property and converted it into an ice skating rink, a spark of life returned, but only briefly. After Whitney's death, his family saw the land as more valuable than the structure itself. Developers circled with plans for condominiums and modern buildings. The baths were no longer viewed as a treasure but as an obstacle. By the 1960s, demolition was scheduled. The world's largest indoor bathhouse was about to be erased, unaware that its final chapter would arrive not by bulldozer, but by fire. Asterisk, the demolition crews never got their chance, because the end of the Sutro Baths arrived in a single catastrophic night that felt almost scripted by fate. In June of 1966, as developers prepared to clear the land, a fire ignited deep inside the aging structure. Within minutes, flames crawled up wooden walkways, raced along the dry beams, and exploded through the fragile glass roof that once shimmered like a crystal palace. Witnesses gathered on the cliffs and watched in stunned silence as the immense building burned against the dark Pacific sky, the fire glowing orange on the waves below. Metal twisted in the heat until it curled like ribbons. Glass shattered and rained down as smoke poured from the shell of the once beloved landmark. Firefighters arrived quickly, but could do little against a structure that had become a perfect fuel source after decades of exposure to salt, wind, and decay. By the time the flames died, the palace of water and light was gone. The blaze was ruled arson, but no one was ever arrested, leaving behind a mystery that still lingers like smoke on the coastline. After the fire, plans for development collapsed as quickly as the building had. The land was too damaged, too unstable, too expensive to rebuild. Slowly, nature reclaimed the ruins. Tides rolled through the exposed foundations, filling old pools with seawater. Moss spread across broken staircases. Crabs scuttled through the cracks where swimmers once dove. Fog drifted among the concrete shadows, turning the site into a haunting landscape where time felt suspended. Yet the ruins did not remain forgotten. Artists, hikers, families, and photographers came searching for beauty in the eerie remains. They stood at the cliffside railings, imagining thousands of voices echoing through the space where silence now ruled. By the 1970s, the ruins had become a beloved part of San Francisco's character, not for what they offered, but for what they represented, the rise and fall of an impossible dream. Recognizing this, the National Park Service stepped in and folded the ruins into the Golden Gate National Recreation Area, ensuring their preservation. What had once been the largest indoor pool complex in the world now lived on as an open-air monument to ambition, imagination, and the unstoppable power of time. Today, when visitors walk the winding paths above Land's End and look down at the ruins of the Sutro Baths, they are seeing far more than broken concrete and tide pools. They are standing at a crossroads between past and present, imagination and reality, a place where the story of a city is etched into the landscape itself. The waves that crash into the old foundations sound almost like an echo of the crowds that once filled the glass palace with laughter and energy. The wind that sweeps across the cliffs feels like it carries whispers of Sutro's grand ambition. A reminder that one man's vision once transformed this rugged cove into one of the world's greatest public attractions. The ruins teach a simple truth that every generation eventually learns. Even the greatest creations are temporary, but the ideas behind them can endure. The Sutro Baths represent the courage to dream boldly, the belief that beauty and joy should be accessible to everyone, and the understanding that nature will always reclaim what humans build. Standing among the crumbling walls, visitors often pause and imagine the glow of sunlight through glass, swimmers diving into cool salt water, and children racing along the walkways. They sense the rise and fall of the place in a way that no photograph or museum exhibit could ever express. The story lives on through the ruins because they turn history into something you can touch, climb, and experience with your senses. And as modern San Francisco continues to evolve with new buildings, new technologies, and new dreams, the baths remain a quiet reminder of an era defined by audacity and generosity. The cliffs, the tides, and the surviving stones all speak to the legacy of a man who believed the public deserved grandeur just as much as the elite. The Sutro Baths may have fallen to fire and time, but their memory endures in every person who stands at the edge of the Pacific and wonders how such a dream ever existed. In that moment, the ruins are no longer just remnants of the past. They are the living soul of a story that refuses to disappear.